don't trust nobody. In Hollywood specifically, when you get there, a lot of people don't know how to say no. That's the difference between New York City and California.
So civil complaint, simply allegations, need to be proven in a court of law, but if true, it could rise to the level of criminality, and we'll see what happens or if the DA looks and investigates.
The man who built a billion-dollar empire is now staring down one of the most explosive accusations of his career, and this time it's not about charts, tours, or rivalries. Court filings, affidavits, and whispered testimonies are piling up, painting a portrait of Sean Carter as a mogul who may have spent decades outrunning a secret that refuses to stay buried. The headlines roll like thunder: paternity charges revived, a lawsuit stretching back more than 10 years, and a forgotten son demanding clarity. And as the camera zooms in on those stamped legal seals, the music turns ominous, because what's at stake here isn't just fortune or fame, it's the very foundation of Jay-Z's legacy.
So, as you guys are coming in that you can hear me and see me, I'm pretty sure that you can. This is some exclusive tea that I got a little while back.
So at the heart of it all stands Ramier Satterthwaite, now 31, who has fought year after year to force the man he believes is his father to acknowledge him. He is cast as the David in this saga, up against the Goliath of Roc Nation's machinery. His late mother, Wanda, swore in a legal affidavit that she and Carter were together when she was just 16, and the timeline leads directly to his birth in the summer of 1993. For Ramier, this was never about tabloid glory. He has said time and again that it's about identity, about the simple acknowledgement of truth. Yet every time he inches close to getting a paternity test ordered, he finds himself blocked, delayed, or stonewalled by legal maneuvers that smell more like corporate strategy than family law. The filings tell a story of confusion and contradiction. In Pennsylvania, he was told he was too old for the courts to rule. In New Jersey, Carter's attorneys argued their client had no ties to the state, even as property records linked him to multiple homes. One lawyer admitted she misspoke about ownership, a word that in court circles carries the weight of fraud. Again and again, the proceedings closed in sealed records, appeals cut short, and sanctions imposed on the plaintiffs for alleged infractions that mysteriously had no basis in law. Ramier and his guardian, Dr. Lily Coley, have claimed that what happened was more than bureaucracy. It was an orchestrated effort to keep Jay-Z from ever having to swab a cheek or hand over a single strand of DNA.
I don't have no felonies, I'm not crazy or none of that. It's like, I just want the truth, and it's so hard to get it from the courts. And it seems like Jay-Z don't want to say anything. So, I don't want to see him go down for something that, you could have just got taken care of. That's it.
This is where the story twists from sad to sinister. Because if Ramier is right, and if Wanda was indeed underage at the time she conceived, then a DNA result confirming Carter as the father would not just rewrite one man's birth certificate, it would crack open legal questions that reach back 30 years, forcing uncomfortable conversations about age, consent, and power in the early days of Jay-Z's rise. That possibility explains why his team may have fought so ferociously to keep the case buried, why courtrooms mysteriously leaned his way, and why the young man seeking nothing more than clarity found himself crushed by motions, filings, and endless legal gymnastics. And yet, into this combustible mix steps a figure who has never shied away from throwing gasoline on a fire: 50 Cent. Curtis Jackson has been circling Jay-Z for decades, sometimes as rival, sometimes as reluctant ally, but always as a man with a sharp eye for blood in the water. In recent months, he has transformed Ramier's quiet fight into a global spectacle with one troll after another, but behind the memes and the AI mock-ups lurks a question that refuses to fade. Does 50 Cent know something the rest of us don't? His posts have gone far beyond clowning. He's linked Jay-Z's silence to Diddy's downfall, he's hinted at secrets hidden in courtrooms, and he suggested that this isn't just a family matter, it's an empire-level cover-up.
50's not to be
No, don't
50's not to be
Fifth. Y'all don't even, Fifth is
play around
different.
if you want to.
Fifth is different.
When he mocks Jay-Z for showing up at a red carpet event with Beyonce and Blue Ivy in the midst of swirling accusations, we laugh at the audacity. But then we notice the timing. He posts jabs within hours of new filings hitting the docket. He spins conspiratorial captions just as attorneys confirm fraudulent statements were made in earlier hearings. And in his podcast appearances, he lets slip questions that feel less like comedy and more like coded signals. Why won't Carter take a test? And why does every court ruling break his way when records suggest otherwise? It is almost as if 50 is daring the public to connect the dots, positioning himself as the loudmouth who masks dangerous truths with jokes. Roc Nation insiders whisper about a special team, shadowy legal fixers who move faster than clerks, who can nudge judges into sealing documents, who know how to stall cases until statutes of limitation quietly expire. The whispers claim this isn't just about one paternity fight, but a template used again and again whenever sensitive matters threaten the brand. Industry veterans tell us that this legal firewall is the real backbone of Carter's billion-dollar dominance, more powerful than hit singles, more enduring than clothing lines. And if that's true, then Ramier's lawsuit doesn't just threaten to pierce Jay-Z's armor. It threatens to expose an entire system designed to keep the world's biggest names untouchable, which is exactly why 50 Cent's involvement feels so deliberate. He has made enemies of both Diddy and Jay-Z, but he has also planted himself as the unofficial narrator of their unraveling. His upcoming Netflix docu-series on Diddy is billed as giving a voice to the voiceless. But what if it doubles as a vault of evidence, a stage to air out connections that the courts buried? What if 50 Cent, for all his trolling, is about to weaponize the scandals into a new wave of cultural currency? He's been hinting for months that tapes exist, that proof is out there, that the same industry that crowned Jay-Z king is sitting on skeletons that would shatter the kingdom.
What I've heard about them as a couple is that they've been living separate lives for a very long time.
And that leaves us staring at the question everyone's too nervous to answer. If 50 Cent really has the receipts, if he can force the paternity scandal out of whispered rumors and into courtroom reality, does this end with a DNA test at last? Or does Jay-Z's empire, sharpened by decades of lawyers and fixers, crush its accusers once again? Through it all, one figure has remained silent, and her silence is louder than any denial or press release. Beyonce, the queen of calculated appearances, the woman who can turn a whisper into a world tour, has chosen not to utter a single word about her husband's entanglement. And that silence has sparked its own speculation. Is this the calm before the storm? A moment where she waits until every angle has been measured before stepping forward? Or is it distance? A deliberate move to shield her own crown from the fallout that could shatter their carefully curated image of perfection. Behind the glossy photographs and red carpet smiles, we can only imagine the tension this must create in the Carter household. A daughter, like Blue Ivy, is old enough now to scroll, to read, to hear her friends ask uncomfortable questions. And when those questions are about her father being dragged into paternity lawsuits and whispered scandals, silence at home might be far harder to maintain than silence in public. This is the razor's edge Beyonce walks. Step in too soon and she risks attaching her brand to the mess. Step back too far and she risks appearing cold, detached, or even complicit. Insiders say the Carters have been working with crisis specialists to navigate the headlines, and Beyonce's decision to stay quiet may not be passivity, it may be strategy. She understands timing better than anyone in the business, and she knows that her voice, once unleashed, will carry weight that no lawyer can file away in sealed documents. The question is, will her silence last, or will she eventually choose to speak and tilt the entire narrative in one direction? While Beyonce's silence keeps fans guessing, 50 Cent's noise only grows louder. His jabs, his memes, his sudden bursts of commentary, they've all been part of the game. But now, industry chatter points to something far more dangerous than an Instagram post. He has hinted at major receipts, a phrase that in hip-hop gossip usually means paperwork, screenshots, or bank transfers. But what if the evidence is not paper at all? What if there is a living witness, someone who was there, someone who saw Jay-Z and Wanda together back in the early 90s? A witness who could confirm the timeline, who could say with certainty that the story Ramier has been fighting to tell is not fantasy, but fact.
Weirdo. I don't get no what you got in your head, that neural link. You'll never outthink me. Ever.
The idea of a hidden witness is the kind of rumor that can't easily be dismissed because it's harder to bury a breathing person than a sealed record. Some insiders whisper that 50 Cent has already tracked one down, a figure from Philadelphia's music circles who remembers encounters that Jay-Z would rather keep in the shadows. Others say it could be a former associate from the early Rockefeller days, someone who has stayed quiet for decades but might be coaxed out now with the promise of protection and a Netflix spotlight. If even half of this is true, then 50 isn't just trolling, he's holding a loaded weapon in the middle of a media war. The timing of Jay-Z's renewed paternity battle couldn't be more suspicious because it unfolds in parallel with Diddy's sprawling legal collapse. Federal raids, sealed indictments, and whispers of decades-long misconduct have already pulled dozens of names into the spotlight. What makes industry insiders nervous is that the same period now being dissected by investigators, the late 90s and early 2000s, also overlaps with the timeline of Wanda's sworn claims about Jay-Z. The overlap raises an unnerving question. Could the two cases, though officially separate, begin to blur together in the courts of public opinion and perhaps even in legal discovery?
I think that they don't want, if they was in any of those freak-off tapes, if they played a part in any of those Diddy sessions, They don't want it to get out to the general public to make up their...
Investigators have reportedly seized years of records from Diddy's homes, ranging from guest lists to handwritten notes, and those archives might hold more than anyone expects. If names, dates, or correspondence tied to Wanda or her circle were to surface, it would connect Jay-Z's private paternity dispute to Diddy's already toxic file of accusations. The two men were inseparable during those years, appearing at the same parties, working the same studios, and sharing overlapping crew. That closeness, once celebrated as brotherhood, now looks more like a liability. Legal analysts note that when prosecutors build broad conspiracy or enterprise cases, seemingly unrelated allegations can become threads in the same fabric. One sealed document from Diddy's side could mention Jay-Z in passing, not because he was a central figure, but because he was there, in the room, in the orbit. And that's all it would take to drag his name deeper into discovery. Suddenly, a personal lawsuit about parentage transforms into a piece of evidence within a federal investigation, magnifying the risk and the stakes far beyond family drama.
But after that major documentary comes out on Diddy, then you're going to start to hear more and more about Jay-Z and his nefarious past.
The conspiracy angle grows darker when we consider whispers about shared legal defenses. For years, both moguls were rumored to rely on overlapping networks of attorneys, fixers, and private investigators. These teams specialized in sealing files, intimidating witnesses, and controlling narratives before they ever hit the press. If investigators unravel even a fraction of those connections, then the firewall Jay-Z has relied upon to deflect Ramier's demands could collapse alongside Diddy's empire. The possibility of a domino effect is why some insiders quietly predict that Jay-Z's paternity case may not remain isolated for long. We also cannot ignore the symbolic weight of their friendship. For decades, Diddy and Jay-Z embodied the myth of two men who rose together, who turned street credibility into boardroom power. Now, with one empire crumbling under the weight of indictments, the other risks guilt by association. In a culture where optics matter as much as evidence, the image of Jay-Z toasting a festive drink beside Diddy at billionaire brunches takes on a far more sinister meaning when juxtaposed with today's headlines. That imagery fuels conspiracy theories that their histories are intertwined in ways even loyal fans don't want to imagine.
So why does it all come to a head now? Why now? Why?
Because he's the acceptable monster at this time, like R. Kelly was the last time I sat on this couch.
So who's next?
Y'all don't see the lineup?
Yeah, we see the lineup.
If prosecutors or civil attorneys decide to dig deeper, the potential crossover could be devastating. Witnesses lined up against Diddy may start recalling nights, conversations, or connections that put Jay-Z on their radar too. Even if nothing criminal ties him directly, the scandal of proximity alone could corrode his carefully maintained image as hip-hop's untouchable strategist. And in that sense, the paternity fight isn't just about one man and his son. It may be the crack that lets investigators peer inside a much larger, darker web connecting the most powerful names in the industry. And let's not forget the timing. Just as federal cases close in on Diddy, just as Jay-Z's name is dragged into civil filings, the rumor of a witness suddenly takes on the shape of a ticking clock. Imagine the courtroom scenario: years of sealed files, dismissed motions, and jurisdictional games all blown apart by one person taking the stand to say, "I was there, I saw it." It would be the kind of bombshell no billion-dollar legal team could spin away, which raises the most tantalizing possibility of all. Could 50 Cent be preparing to use this witness as the centerpiece of his upcoming projects, turning a personal feud into a cultural earthquake?
Really a conspiracy if the same person keeps benefiting off the same kind of tragedy over and over?
The stakes couldn't be higher. For Jay-Z, the empire he built rests not only on music, but on trust. Trust from brands, trust from partners, trust from fans who see him as the self-made mogul who rose from Marcy Projects to global dominance. If that trust fractures, if the paternity scandal merges with the Diddy fallout and drags the Carter family deeper into the mud, then no amount of platinum plaques or billionaire brunches will shield him. And for Beyonce, the silence may soon feel less like strategy and more like a trap, because once the storm breaks, even the queen can't stand apart from her king's downfall. We are watching the walls close in and the questions multiply. Is this paternity battle just one young man's desperate search for identity, or is it the first crack in a dynasty built on secrecy? Will Beyonce finally step off the sidelines and defend the family image, or will she allow the silence to speak for itself? And if 50 Cent really has the witness, the receipts, the living proof, then what happens when that truth is unleashed?
After they are done with Diddy, Jay-Z is up next to be exposed, right?
One thing is clear, this is not the end of the story, not even close. The stage is set for revelations that could shake the entire culture, topple reputations, and redraw the map of hip-hop power. So we have to ask, are we on the verge of seeing the most guarded secret in music history finally exposed? Or will Jay-Z's billion-dollar machine crush every challenge in its path yet again? Let us know what you think in the comments, because this saga is far from over. Till next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next one.